Welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show. I'm so glad that you're here. And there's a lot of things I want to talk about right now, but I'm going to have to actually exit out of here. So I'm feeling the stress because I got to go catch a plane and go out to Colorado Springs. But I'm going to be going to Detroit. I'm trying to get these announcements. Am I going to be able to play this message soon enough to get this Detroit meeting promoted? Because I'm going to be out in Detroit on August 31st and September 1st. August 31st, September 1st. Well, it's Michigan. I call it Detroit because of all the years Kim Clement and I went to Detroit. But it's going to be 2 days. I think it's a Michigan moment. And I just felt the priority about going up to Michigan. And I'll give you more information about it. But if you're in Michigan, maybe you could just go to lancewallnau.com/Michigan. How's that for... By the way, I'm gesturing to Mercedes, who's you look all exasperated here today. I mean, what's the story, Mercedes?
I'm not exasperated. We've done a number of shows already that are more evergreen than the new show. So I'm just winding down. I'm just kind of like, yes.
Well, you were the one that was all outraged today about Bank of America. So tap into your inner rage and tell me, what was it about the Bank of America update that got you upset?
Well, I just saw this article today, and it was Bank of America debanked a Ugandan missionary or an organization that helps support Ugandans and does missions over there. And it was like a headline news story. And I'm like, what is going on with the debanking of Christian ministries?
Did they also debank Nick Vujicic?
They did, yeah. They did. And honestly, that's one of the episodes we have coming up soon is with Kevin Freeman. And he went through a whole list of people like Sam Brownback. It's just
this is Nick Vujicic, this courageous, motivational man who overcame not having arms and legs. They basically could care less about a man who was physically handicapped. They took away his
It was
bank.
Chase.
Huh?
Carl's over here saying it's Chase Bank that debanked Nick.
All right, well, forget that.
But
It's
Bank
Chase
of America
Bank.
is a problem too.
But the point is these banks are as evil as the devil. Hey, we had our own problems. Bank of America, as I recall. So I'm just saying this. Why are they doing it? Because Uganda doesn't like our woke politics, and they're Christian. So they're going to target the missions and the Christians in foreign countries, just like Twinkle Toes Trudeau did with GoFundMe accounts for anyone who was in the trucker protest. They given power to do so. These people are totalitarian vampires who want to suck the blood out of your liberty so that they can control you. The banks work with them. Having said that, on a more cheery note, I believe that there's a pushback coming. You know, the populist response, like for instance, my sense of indignance right now is totally natural and organic because the average American doesn't like. It's in our DNA, folks. We don't like the loss of liberty. I'm going to tell you, if America keeps on rejecting God, it's the number one virtue, the number one grace, and the number one gift we have is that statue of liberty and the Liberty Bell. It's a word called liberty. It's freedom. And man, when Americans lose freedom, that's when you're going to see the spirit of 1776 rise up and freak out the equivalents of the British royal elites in Washington and in their various capitals around the nation. But we're believing that God has a better solution to the problem. And that solution is great awakening, because the outrage can be channeled into reform before it's too late. Reform that can be showing up in policing election fraud, getting out the right votes, getting the right information out, trying to curve ourselves from conspiracy theories, which is easy to get into when the news is dishonest and programmed by Pravda, the propaganda capitals of the government. Let me just get focused here on Maui. It'll still be news for a while longer that this situation down there has been covered up for some reason, or something's going on there that is not being covered. If this was the Trump administration, you'd have everybody crawling all over themselves to cover any area of incompetence or potential conspiracy. But you're not getting any kind of objective news coverage. You're getting some weird news, which, of course, feeds a cycle of conjecture, like what really happened? What happened down there? Is it the power lines that fell as I heard on Steve Bannon with Alex Jones? He said, listen, BlackRock owns, here's a conspiracy theory, 30% of like the utility down there. And that they made a decision 4 years ago. They weren't going to be doing anything. They're going to put their money in green energy. So they're just going to, in a sense, not invest in what? Like removing brush near power lines. Like in California, we found out when the wind kicks up, the lines can get down, the electricity boom hits, and the dry tinder that hasn't been cleared away becomes combustible. Then you get 70-mile-an-hour winds. Whew. That's a natural explanation.
This portion is too hot to handle for social media. Go to lancewallnau.com/podcast to listen to the entire show.
You know, the thing that's really shocking to me, though, Lance, is really how mismanaged this is. I mean, and it's honestly, though.
Liberals can't manage anything. I mean, I don't care what city you're talking about, what problem you're talking about. I don't care whether it's a border, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's an economy, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's crime. They can't manage a bloody thing. I mean, they're like anarchists. Their instinct is to politicize everything. So then the governor down there in Hawaii, what's his big point? Well, children have not been found yet who were incinerated in their homes because they were told to stay there lest they should be exposed to the fire while the parents went to work, and then the fire took out the children. The Dumbo governor decides this is the right time to talk about climate change. And then Biden follows suit with another ignorant, quip at a joke and trying to disingenuously say, I've gone through the same thing, lying about his own affliction with a fire in his kitchen, like he understands having your child lost in a fire. It's just shocking. I mean, I hope you guys I hope you see it. I hope America sees the depraved condition of mind that is coming from the liberal elite establishment. Mm-hmm. We have footage. Carl, you showed me something. You're writing me a note now, I know. But it's What the Heck is Up in Hawaii, Nick Sorter and Mike Lindell. No, Mike Lindell wasn't. It's a Charlie Kirk show. Should we show that? Carl? Yep. He says yes. Okay, let's show it right now.
Nick was right in correcting me. It's not a natural disaster. It is a man-made disaster. The water guy, Kaleo Manuel, wouldn't give landowners water access to fight fires when it was still small. There's video of him babbling that water is a god in Hawaii, pagans, and should be revered rather than used. He should be criminally charged and put in prison. The emergency manager for the island, Maui Emergency Management Agency Director Herman Indaya, was a career political aide with no emergency background. His defense was that he watched online training videos made for by FEMA. He's resigned and is probably only there because of woke criteria. The power company knew wildfires were a danger, but spent almost no money on wildfire prevention. Tons of renewables, though, because Hawaii passed a bunch of mandates for them. This is not a natural disaster. It's man-made. Nick, you have intelligence on the power company. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the power company, it looks like they built a brand new substation right where the fire started. I have never seen a power company construct something that quickly and that under the radar. It happens to be right where I believe the fire started because there is no burn trail anywhere beyond that substation. And they don't let anybody get close to it. I had to send a drone up in the air to actually get the first look at it. And that was a tip-off that came from a wealthy landowner up there, a builder. So he was able to tip me off on that. When it comes to the power company's initial handling of the downed lines that we heard about that, did probably start the fire, they left the lines down for 10 hours. They were down for 10 hours, and they were still live the entire time. So all the way up to the point where there was a fire raging, burning through the town, those wires were all still live, laying across the road, which is one of the reasons that you had police blocking the roads and not letting anybody get out. And you had gridlock traffic because the power company did nothing, even after the lines were down. They just sat on their hands, and I guarantee you a lot of people are dead specifically because of that, because they couldn't even drive out of the town. And the fire spread so quickly that these cars just got engulfed in flames, and bodies were just trapped everywhere inside.
Well, so is it incompetence? Is it because Hawaii is going to be hosting its first, coming up global geoeconomic environmental summit? And they are the most progressive environmental state in the union and are looking forward to demonstrating their zeal for transforming the island into an environmental model of what the World Bank and World Economic Forum and the billionaire funders want to do. Is it possible that they're buying up this property, that this was arson? Are you aware of the number of fires that are going on right now? Canada and Kelowna, other parts of the country?
Globally, Greece.
Globally, Greece. One does wonder if I could see it in one region or one city, but if it doesn't look like fires are the natural byproduct of historic trends with similar weather patterns in years past, then one has to question whether or not this is not a eco-terrorist attack that is taking place. And it's too bad that we're living in a day when it's not that far-fetched. It's quite possible. I mean, what do we know? We can't trust the news, and you can't trust the honesty of the government to investigate itself. So one does become suspicious.
You know, you think about, too, remember when James O'Keefe did that expose related to COVID and how it was like one of these reporters is like, yeah, right now we're doing a lot of COVID, but the next big thing is going to be global warming. And you're talking about the governor in the middle of talking about not even accurately reporting, by the way, how many people really lost their lives. I mean, the things that you hear through alternate news sources, the numbers are much higher. People drown jumping in the water. And it's like you get angry about it. I go to a different place where I can get really sad. I mean, what I was about to say earlier is like this thought of 15-year-olds, 13, 12-year-olds who stayed home from school that day because of the high winds. Their parents went to work. And I saw a story last night about a 15-year-old boy who lost his life in the fire in his house, cradling his dog. And the parents walked up and they found him, like 5-6 hours later. And how many more stories are like that's out there? And it's heartbreaking. And the water was shut off. Like you heard Charlie talk about, there was no water to fight the fire. The power stayed on. No sirens went off. It's incredibly mismanaged.
I mean, it's kind of hard for me to believe. I'm going through all my notes. I got 20 stories. We're trying to look for just one, and that's the indictment of Trump in Atlanta. And I've got tons of everything else. This is the one I want to talk about. But it just seems to me that, here we go. Seems to me that the tragedy in Maui is, I hate to say it, but I wonder to what extent being under the political rulership of a kind of a psychopathic political system puts people in jeopardy all the time. I mean, I'm still curious about that flipped over truck or train that hit, remember that totally poisoned and destroyed a city.
I remember that.
That was a largely Trumpian city. Maui is largely Democrat. The state votes Democrat. Well, I guess they're thinking about what they're doing now. Trump says he will surrender at an Atlanta jail Thursday. So this is going to be coming to you probably as or after the surrender. What is happening with these DAs and the judges, which are in the strongholds of the Democrat progressive grip, where the principalities and powers are the strongest and they've got the jury under their control, where they have the greatest leverage, like Gotham City? Over here's where the Penguin lives. Over here's where the Joker lives. And it's like boom, boom, boom. That's where the courts are. So you got New York City. You've got this situation in Atlanta. Fulton County, one of the most corrupt, weird counties in Texas, in Georgia. I remember that's where all the shenanigans were we were looking at. I mean, Dinesh D'Souza does his 2,000 Mules situation down there. Anyway, what happens is this Judge Fannie whatever, is going to try. She's got a BLM objective to destroy Trump, And it's kind of like written all over the situation. And these people that run for office on the promise that they're going to get Trump, it's just beyond the point of outrage. And yet the indifference, or worse yet, the way in which the liberal left and half the country read the news. Remember, Jesus, on the day of his trial, Jesus, 3.5 years of perfect ministry, obedience, sacrifice, and service. Half the crowd crying out against him, half for him, because the chief priests had paid off the legacy media in the crowd and a couple of activists to drown out the confused followers who one day before were saying, we love you, Jesus. Today, they're like angry at Jesus because they're reading the accusations and the slander. Human nature is so fickle. Up, down, the populace turned against him. So I don't know what will happen. It's Fannie Willis. That's her last name. So can you believe it? I'll be going to Atlanta, Georgia on Thursday to be arrested by a radical left district attorney, Fannie Willis, Trump writes. So he's going to be arrested, and they can't wait to get the photo ops and, of Trump, and they want to let's lock him up. And I pray for patience and self-control, and I mean that, for all the people that have a due sense of what is right and wrong. I mean, listen, when George Floyd took place, the whole country exploded and everybody seemed to be sympathetic to it. If they use the Justice Department to lynch the liberties and rights of a president, you can expect there's going to be a lot of emotion stirred up, folks. Just be as forgiving for one half of the country that loves the man as we have been forbearing of the other half of the country that hates us. Because the Christian strength that is on the right is going to have to hold self-control in place and choose to restrain the response, because the devil wants to feed a cycle of deteriorating violence in America, and in the name of Jesus, it shall not be. And I'm amazed at the self-restraint that the right has had, and I think a lot of it is due to fear. Quite frankly, I think a lot of people have fear. I mean, listen, this crazy judge is indicting lawyers. She's making it, you could go to prison if you're a lawyer defending someone that the Democrats don't like. But what are we going to see happen? Trump's poll numbers go up. They go up. They go up. I really think that at a certain point in time, I'm listening to the Joe Rogans. I'm listening to the Petersons, the Bill Maher, the Russell Brand. And you know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing the independents that have a far bigger audience than the conservatives do are going, this is screwed up. You know what? An awakening is happening. If we could be patient, we're going to see that the more they push in the wrong direction, the more the veil is coming off the eyes of Americans. And one of the final thoughts we're going to have, and I know I got to take a break right here, but one of the final thoughts I want to say, and this is so important you get this.
This portion is too hot to handle for social media. Go to lancewallnau.com/podcast to listen to the entire show.
Anyway, with that sobering monologue, I can tell you this. I believe that all these things are falling out rather to the furtherance of the gospel. I think all these things are falling out rather to the furtherance of the veil coming off. I think that from here on out, you're going to see the news cycle economically and crime and environment. There's no good news that can come out of this administration. So from here on out, they're going to have to be covering up and lying and denying. And by the way, Biden's multiple email accounts were just discovered. Did you notice that? Why would you have multiple email accounts? Because it's all coming back to the money laundering scheme in the family. Whew. This thing is going to be very hard to keep under wraps. That's why I think they're going to be exiting Joe out, and keep your eye on Hair Gel Newsom and Michelle, because I think those guys would be a natural Dancing with the Stars combination for the Democrat convention in the Al Capone city of Chicago. But I am still confident of greater and better things. You know why? Because I believe that we're reaching a point where what the left is doing what they're doing, the spirit of the thing is creating an exposure on so many fronts that unless you're under the deceiving spirit in a kind of a reprobate way, the veil is getting torn off your eyes, your mind, and it's getting very hard to be confident about the future with this party in charge. And I think Americans are looking back to other days, and I think the left is worried about Trump. If they weren't worried about him winning, they wouldn't be trying so desperately to keep him off the ballot. If they really thought he's a loser, they should obligate him to run. But they're not confident he's going to lose. Regardless of what they say, they're not confident. But we're a lot smarter than we were before, and we've got some things in place that'll make the future different if God is pleased to give us an extension of grace. And I believe if we pray and we exercise forbearance and cry out for intervention and look for righteousness and continue to press for the awakening that is surely already started, we're going to see some interesting times. Yes, the wall will be built. Remember what Daniel said regarding Nehemiah's wall? You biblically literate folks out there will remember this verse. And the wall shall be built, Daniel said 400 years before the wall was built. The wall shall be built, even in a troublesome time, which means God will accomplish his purpose even in the midst of great shaking. And that's my hope for us, it's a hope for America. By the way, the shaking doesn't have to shake you at all. I just did 4 programs on the economic shaking, Davos, BRICS nations. I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch, B-I-R-C-H, and do what many are doing. They're studying the 20 pages of documentation on silver and gold. Find out why it is that in Haggai, the Bible says that the silver is mine and the gold is mine in a time of great shaking. And you're going to see why it is that all the BRICS nations, the Brazils, the Russias, the Indians, the Chinas, the Saudi Arabians are all stockpiling gold. They see a potential collapse of paper money, and they're putting their position in something which can retain and store value. You do the same thing. lancewallnau.com/Birch. I'm going to see you again tomorrow. God bless. Hey, let's take a moment right here and talk about something. You know, these programs are actually paid for by sponsors. And so the one thing that I always do is try to pick the sponsors that have the greatest value. Those are the ones that I myself believe in. Now, the Birch Gold Group is one of those key sponsors, and I'll tell you why. The economy is the area that I'm the most concerned about in terms of instability in the future. Do you know that right now, China and Russia and India is meeting with Saudi Arabians and South Africans to create an alternative economy, to basically crush the dollar? This is going to have a massive effect on the stock market, on real estate. It'll be a real shaking. But you don't have to be shaken, because there's a way you can protect your retirement, your 401ks, your IRAs, by connecting them in with gold. Gold is unique in history in that it's a place of stored value. In fact, those BRICS nations of Brazil and Russia, India and China, they're going to be backing themselves with, guess what? Gold. So be smart. I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and get a free information kit. Get knowledge, act quickly, don't wait. And they're going to be able to help you make a great decision on what to do. Remember, that information is free with no strings attached. Do it now, lancewallnau.com/Birch.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you